Yes? Okay. It is now 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let's call the Johnston City Council meeting number 26-12 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ready?
Here.
Burkhart?
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience this evening. If you are here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask for you to wait for that item to come up and to address the council at that time. If you are here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And since we have Mike McCoy in the audience with us this evening, Mike, would you do the honors of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Council, any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have one scheduled public communications this evening, and that is a presentation regarding the Metro Waste Authority.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can you please switch on that mic, please?
Yeah.
Can you switch it on? Yes, thank you.
Forgot one step. That's all I had. I had 2 steps. I missed one. Not going very well. Mr. Cope, I'm sorry I missed you tonight, but so a little bit about Metro Waste Authority. We're going to get through a little of the history of Metro very quickly, kind of specifics of what how we partner with Johnston and some of their tonnages and programs that you participate in. And I'll try to get through this as quick as possible. Feel free to jump in with some questions, and I'll have some time at the end as well. Again, I'm Michael McCoy, CEO of Metro Waste Authority. We are a quasi-government agency that covers mostly Polk County for this board's sake. We also cover a few other counties when it comes to garbage and recycling. We'll cover that here shortly. Thank you to Mr. Burkhart for being on the board, Rhonda in the past on our board. All that is very helpful, the input of the different commissioners. So we'll start with our facilities. Metro Park East landfill is the landfill, our largest landfill. It is the original landfill out by Runnels or Mitchellville. The address is actually in Mitchellville, but it's closer to Runnels. It is sits on 2,000 acres out there. Largest landfill by 4 times in the state of Iowa, one of the largest in the Midwest as well. Just to give you a little picture of that, it's about 3,500 tons coming in there on a daily basis, and about 1,000 vehicles coming through the gate on a daily basis as well. So quite busy, and it's taking care of all, you can think of any town or city in Polk County. All of that comes to us, as well as some outside of Polk County. We'll discuss that quickly. Metro Park West landfill is outside of Perry, about 10 miles. Don't hear a lot about that one. The permitted area for that one is about 17 acres. So this will put it into perspective of what Metro Park East is. We build new cells, holes in the ground, basically what they are, very complex holes in the ground at Metro Park East at 20 acres per cell. So one cell that lasts 3 years is the size of the current permitted area of Metro Park West up by Perry. And we'll go through that every 3 years at East. When I started 10 and a half years ago, we were going through those cells at about 5-year periods of time. So not only 20 acres, but it's also equaling around 17 to 18 million to construct one of those cells on an every 3-year basis. So that gets into why we do some of the diversion plans we do and some of the partnerships like we have with your cities to do diversion in different areas. Metro Recycling Facility, many of you have been there. You're all welcome there. Come on out for a tour anytime. Just get a hold of me and we will give tours for you, your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, friends, whoever you want to bring with you. It's pretty fascinating from preschool to any age at that point. We have a full education center up there as well. That just sits on the flyover of Grimes. It's a 101,000 square foot, very high-tech facility. When it was built, it was the #1 high-tech facility for recycling in North America. We're at about #3 right now, but we're always fighting that with new technology we're bringing in recently. In the last year or two, we brought in robots that are helping us at this point as well. Metro Northwest Transfer Station, it's on the same campus, we call it out there, where the recycling facility also is the transfer station. That comes into play for folks like Johnston, the city of Johnston, in pricing, and I'll get into that in a minute. Central Transfer Station is another transfer station in Delaware in North Polk County. Think of these as just large Morton buildings, pretty, again, complex Morton buildings with tunnels underneath. Our semis drive underneath. We load your garbage trucks into these semis. We can get about 4 garbage trucks per semi, and that keeps your trucks on the street, keeping your prices down as much as possible. If they had to drive to landfill, it'd be an 1.5 to 2 hour round trip when they have to wait in line and such. In this case, they get out in about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and get back on your roads. So one truck and 1 or 2 trucks can take care of most of the towns we're servicing. Hazardous waste facility drop-off. We have one in Bondurant. That's our original one. Think of hazardous waste as anything you have underneath your sink or in your garage, within reason. Things that you legally should have under your sink or in your garage can come to us. Some things that aren't so legal come to us, and we have to get others involved, but that's okay too. We'd rather take care of them than somebody put it in their garbage, and then we have a bigger mess later, or in their recycling. Central office, that's where the administration piece is. That's in East Village, just by the old City Hall of Des Moines. Why did we build there 22 years ago, 24 years ago now? Because it was the revitalization of East Village. It was the first building to be rebuilt and built up in East Village to take that chance, and then everything grew around it. None of the buildings that are currently around it were there when the agency built. The compost facility, Metro Compost Center, it is officially where we make compost. That is out by or inside the landfill property. It is its own facility very much, but it is out there. That's where all your yard waste comes, and we turn it into compost. It's been a great story. It's been running probably for 15 to 18 years. In the last 5 years, we've just turned that around and broke even on that facility and doing very well. We'll get into a little piece of that on the private label bagging that we've done and now being sold at different Hy-Vees, True Values, Ace Hardwares, as well as bulk compost. And then Metro Redemption Center, as the legislators changed some of the rules. We heard from a lot of residents that they needed redemption centers put up in place. And so we have put 2 in place today, one in Grimes at that campus, and the second one being at the Bondurant facility, looking to do more. I think staff and I just met this morning. Their goal is to have a redemption center at any one of our facilities that is open. So that should probably come in 2026, as well as partnering with more cities if we can do it in some fashion that's easy for them and us and convenient for the residents. We look at 2 things when we're looking at programs for residents. We need them to be convenient and we need them to be priced properly, regardless of what the program is. Most residents will do the right thing if it's convenient and the pricing's correct. And so that comes into play with tires and appliances, those type paint, and some of the hazardous waste. If we see that, or the residents see it's difficult, sometimes they make that choice, that easier choice to put it in their garbage can, the recycling can, or sometimes the ditch, right? So let's keep it out of those places. By the numbers, curbside services, garbage, recycling, and yard waste are what we manage. We manage the contracts for most of the cities in Central Iowa and certainly in the metro. except Urbandale does their own garbage and the city of Des Moines does all three programs themselves. Other than that, we're managing the programs, the contracts, hoping to keep those phone calls out of your city hall and some of those issues out of your city hall as well. We keep them down at our office is our goal. So you can see the household served in Johnston is 7,100. Metro Waste Authority is managing the contract for about 110,000 homes right now on a daily basis. Rates are very much under the consolidated collection trend lower by about 30 to 40% if you're not in the consolidated collection. I'll correct myself. And one other city that does their own garbage, or doesn't do their own garbage, but allows any garbage company to come is Ankeny. So they have 5 or 6 going up and down their streets. Problem with that is you have 5 or 6 on 5 or 6 different days at 5 or 6 different times, and they all come when they want to pick up. So you have a lot more traffic and a lot more danger, I'll say, as well, and wear and tear on your streets. We pride ourselves in our education and outreach. You'll see some of those statistics coming up. The classrooms visited by Johnston were 4. Ready, Set, Recycle is a new program at the recycling facility for kids on Monday mornings and Tuesday late mornings, where any family can bring their children if they sign up. It's been a huge hit. We've had, since we've started it, thousands of individuals. This is just since we've been counting Ready, Set, Recycle, which is just the last few months. And that has also just won a national award in those 2 months that we will be going to receive in October for that program as well. We have a STEM teacher, full-time teacher on board, licensed teacher. We stole her out of Waukee. She is a presidential STEM winning teacher, and she does a fantastic job with summer camps and other things. So just an FYI to your families to look onto our site to get some of those different benefits that they can come to. So some of those community benefits, taking those customer calls I was talking to you about, we do about 62,000 phone calls on an annualized basis. If you're on the board and you hear me talk about Beatrice, that is our chat bot. I call her Beatrice. Staff won't call her by her name yet because I always joke that they're a little jealous of her or competitive with her, but she is an AI chat bot and is now learned all of our websites amongst all of our cities' websites and will answer those phone calls or those messages online. Soon to be, I kind of let it out of the box, will be phone calls as well. But we've seen a huge increase on that one, and getting great reviews from Beatrice, from the residents. Of course, you hit any button, you get a live person. We do not do anything that's not live when it's a phone call. So the phone calls are live at this point. Cart deliveries, 9,100. We've internalized cart deliveries where it used to be we would guarantee your resident a new cart or to fix a broken cart within 10 days, or if a new house was built, we'd get it there in 10 days. That was when it was outsourced. We've brought that in the last 3 years. We are now at about 48 hours for your residents on getting that cart fixed or a new one out to them. So I think that has been a huge improvement by staff. And then we run some grants and discounted compost for soil quality restoration projects that cities do is what that would qualify for, city projects. Curbside on the garbage piece, residents in Johnston disposed of just near 6,000 tons on the garbage side and about 1,067 tons on the recycling side. That's pretty impressive for the size of your city when it comes to the tonnage for recycling. So big kudos and pat on the back for your residents and for them doing the right thing. It is not one of the cities that we kind of have under watch right now. I was telling the city manager earlier that we do have cameras, which most may not know, but cameras outside the truck, cameras inside the truck, that we're constantly watching what's being recycled. And then once that truck is dumped at our facility, AI cameras that pick up inside the facility as well and taking that through the entire line of recyclables. So the AI begins inside your truck and it ends at the very end of our sorting with the robots. And so that's how we get such clean material. And it is sought after nationally. It is sought out internationally as well, but we have never had to sell internationally. We are first in line when it comes to the national sales piece, and it does work. So the residents that have heard the rumors that recycling isn't true, it doesn't work, please come out and tour the building and see the tonnage that's moving out of there and we're selling. Matter of fact, next week I go to Detroit to visit one of our sites that we send to. I try to go out to a couple sites a year just to make sure what's happening inside the facilities, what they're promising. This site is one that takes a lot of our plastic and turns it into Tide bottles, soap, and or Comet bottles. They make all the Tide and Comet bottles for North America, the entire North America, and that is your stuff. We've watched when the trucks come from Des Moines, from our facility in Grimes, come out there. So that's verified and it does work, along with your cardboard and other things. So the best way to audit that is come visit us, right? We welcome it. Yard waste, another great program. There's our private label bag. Yard waste, any yard waste you put on the street will come to our facility. We make it into compost. 6 years ago to 18 years ago, it used to take us 11 to 12 months to make a finished product in compost. It now takes us at a maximum, I hope, 4 months, but usually somewhere around 3 to 3.5 months to make that compost in the right way. Just some tweaks of some science, along with some money from the board, has made that change. And we are now typically selling out of our compost, and that goes all over the country as well. So that's a great program that's been going. I will talk about a little bit about compost, and I may talk about it later too, but the storm debris side of this, take note, because this program is really built for that storm debris. It's built for that light storm debris to medium storm debris. So to the residents, when they hear that the city may not be doing a citywide pickup, that is by design. Metro Waste Authority would dictate that comes to the curbside program. Of course, it's your decision as the council and mayor to override that and do those. But typically what we're saying is let the program take care of itself. It's less expensive for your city. It's less work for the cities, a lot less work usually for the residents as well. And so that program works for that. If you have a storm, I'm in a constant contact with your city manager. First thing in the morning, sometimes 5 a.m., sometimes overnight, depending on where it hits, and then your mayor if need be. So it works, the system works. Just kind of let it, I understand when storms hit, we want it gone, but let it take its process and get it out to us. It'll come much quicker if we can get it out. So a little bit the recycling. We have started a lot of drop-offs in your cities. Johnston has helped out a lot with the cardboard side. Residents are asking for more and more cardboard drop-offs. So any drop-offs we can get, they're always full. We started that program with a few drop-offs out that took a chance on us at first. I get it. It was a little, in the past, long past, it was a little messy at these facilities, but we have custom made our drop-offs that you see in the top picture that typically you can only get cardboard in those slots and if you break them down. So no couches, TVs, things like that. But the reason we internalized it is because the cities were having problems in the past. And if something happens like that, all your city has to do is call us. We'll be out same day to pick up the mess. And we have not, knock on wood, I think we've had one time in the 3-4 years that we've had this program that we've actually had to come pick up something. So that I've heard of. So that's pretty good track record by the residents. Holiday lights is another drop off we've provided. And in Johnston, 1,500 pounds. That is a lot of holiday lights that are coming in. But instead of them going into the garbage or worse, the recycling facility, which we do not recycle holiday lights there. It messes up our equipment. And so we have started that program, well received. Scrap tires as well, 4.06 tons of scrap tires in Johnston. That's a lot of tires coming out of Johnston. I don't know what's happening over here, but you guys are going through some tires pretty quick, but or you have some neighbors helping you out. Battery drop-offs, one of our newest initiatives. It's been a huge success. Johnston hosts a battery drop-off in the public library. They have collected 1,117 pounds by per capita mayor. They have to be one of the top one of the top cities by pounds. I was corrected. I thought you were the top, but when I spoke to Urbandale a week ago, they corrected me and said that they were number one, and they had just looked it up before I came. So we can get there. We can get there, right? But it's a new program. We did this program alongside the DNR. It's the first of its kind here. 10,000 pounds is what we told the DNR we thought we could do in a year. We have till June 30th of this year, and we have surpassed 14,000 pounds, collecting on 15,000 pounds today at 30 different locations, and we have 17 other locations that have asked us for these boxes. So these boxes were custom built for us. They were also then added when it came to fire protection on the inside of those, because you're putting batteries in some of those lithium batteries that we're concerned about inside your facilities. So we have put those at a rating that the fire marshals will approve. All battery types, not just lithium batteries, can go into that, into those boxes. We made the decision when it was just lithium that there might be some confusion. So just put any batteries inside those boxes. We'll take care of the sorting later. Why lithium batteries? Here's why. Here is a fire in October 2025 at our landfill in the middle of the night. That is a very small fire compared to the fire we just had last. You might have saw on the news. I actually purposely put that out on the news. Not too many landfills will put out the video of their fires. They're not so proud of them, but anymore with lithium batteries, you got to own it and talk to the residents about this and what their trouble is. I don't think it's just coincidence, but I joke with the city of Des Moines council and manager that I presented at 7 in the morning to their workshop, and then Windsor Heights, and then that night we had the largest fire in the history of Metro Waste Authority. It took us 12 hours to fight that, and unfortunately, it's typically us out there fighting those fires ourselves. With our tanker trucks and bulldozers and compactors, there's not much a fire department can do at that point when you have several acres of garbage on fire. It started by a lithium battery. On the bottom, 2 years after we opened, we had a large fire in at the MRF, at the recycling facility in Grimes. Again, lithium battery started that one, put us out for 2.5 months on that one, and almost $3 million in damage for that one. We built this facility, though, so that in a fire like this, you would not see the difference. Your residents would not see the difference. We didn't skip pickups. We didn't skip processing. We had a redundant system that we could continue to do that. It's quite a ways. We're 3 years on, but thank you to Johnston for showing up for that fire. We had several fire departments showing up to that fire as far as Norwalk because they just didn't know how big it was going to be in a facility like that. But this is why the lithium batteries need to go somewhere else. And that's any lithium battery. If you can recharge it, including your toothbrush, we want it in these boxes, right? And outside of one of our facilities. Hazardous material, we talked about that. Again, anything under your sink or in your garage. 627 residents from Johnston took advantage of that, and those 2 permanent drop-off sites, again, one in Grimes for the western suburbs. You're kind of in the middle. I suppose Grimes would be your closest one. But you can also go to Bondurant that has extended hours than the Grimes one. But 627 residents last year took advantage. That's a great number. It's a very high number. So thank you for that as well. I went through that very quick on purpose. In front of you has a drop-off sheet. I know you guys have long nights and long days, and so I try to get those quick. You have some of those stats I gave you if you want to share those. On the back, you'll see, so it's not just the facilities we have that I showed you in Polk County. This is a map of where Metro Waste Authority is, where they have a footprint. And as you can see, it's almost half of the state that we have a footprint, and we're being asked about every 2 weeks to help out or to go into other counties. We have to make that decision slowly and thoughtfully if we're going to do that. We already take care of, as you can see, recycling in Fairfield, Iowa. All of Council Bluffs recycling comes to us, Fort Dodge, Mason City, Clear Lake, and then garbage from Adair and some other counties are coming to us. And again, 2 of our biggest threats, I'm always asked what our threats are that I see in the horizon. Probably our 2 top threats are lithium batteries and landfills that are going out of business in an alarming number. right now, not just in the state of Iowa, but nationally. But the state of Iowans are the ones that we're very concerned about. Because when I ask these counties or these cities what their plan B is, they often look at me and say, well, it's you, right? And I say, I think my board's on board with that, right? Like, we're not going to fill up Polk County's landfill because you don't want to run a landfill, or you're just, getting out of the business. It's easier to have a transfer station. One that doesn't have a lot of political choice, I'll give you this example, is Cedar Rapids. Second largest metropolitan area is going to be closing their landfill within 5 years if they don't find any answer. They've tried to cite another one, and they cannot because the residents will not allow one. I kind of joke that it's interesting. You can put a 2 million chicken farm, 2 million head chicken farm next to an apartment complex in the state of Iowa, but you can't put a landfill in the middle of 2,000 acres hidden inside it. And so we got to make some decisions here in the state, and that's typically the problem. They're filling up, or they don't have the money to run. Typically, it's the money right now that they don't have to run the landfill, and so they're looking to us to answer those questions, including Boone, Story County, Carroll, Adair, Cedar Rapids, Winterset. And so these are some of those, that's the biggest threats we have are those two things. Would open up questions, if any.
Council, have any questions for Michael?
Are there many private landfills in Iowa?
There are a
Because there was a lot of regulations around them, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of regulations, yeah. There are private ones. A lot of the large companies, the Waste Managements, the Republics own a few private ones. I'm not just saying this because I have a bias. I truly believe this. The right people to run a landfill is the public sector because of those regulations, because of the pricing, right? You look at some of those at the pricing of a tipping fee of $70, $80, $90. Our tipping fee is $37, one of the lowest in the country. And so with a population like ours. And so there are a few, but believe me, one of them would love to purchase us and have offered several times, but we can do it more efficient. We can do it in a better environmental way as well. I truly believe that.
Well, and I personally would rather have it be run by a public entity instead of a for-profit entity that's looking at a bottom line and maybe making shortcuts for the long-term safety of the environment. So appreciate what you do.
Thank you. We'd agree.
Michael, I didn't know that you had a place that you could take household hazardous waste to Grimes.
It is by appointment, so go online or make a phone call and we will make an appointment. We're there, I think, almost every day, and we're there the second Saturday, I believe, of every month in the spring to fall that you can come in. You don't need an appointment. You just drive through. We unload your car, and then you'll have to fact check me on the date, second Saturday, I believe. But and then every day of the week we do private where you set an appointment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, I don't have a question for Michael, but I do want to publicly state it's a fun privilege to serve on the board, quite frankly, for multiple reasons. And so I encourage all of you, they always Zoom their meetings from that standpoint. So if any of you want to listen in on those meetings, by all means, you can. But also, the amount of engagement and outreach that you do is phenomenal. Between visit a landfill days once a year at least, and certain visit days for elected officials and others, I would encourage everyone in this room to take advantage of it. If you don't know where your trash and refuse goes, you need to know, because it shouldn't go in the places that you probably are taking some of it, but also do understand that they care very deeply about how it gets secured and stabilized, and make sure that it also gets compacted. As we get reminded on the board quite frequently, they sell and they deal in airspace from that standpoint, and they want to try to minimize that amount of airspace because they want to put as much of the right trash in the right place. I also, though, want to commend you because of all the technology and the investments that you continue to put in place. Everything from a couple years back when we had discussions about our contract rates, and I asked you at that point in time to make sure that your contractors and trucks were, whenever possible, utilizing natural gas. And the fact is we have a lot of vendors out there that are doing that, including even some of our own trucks and equipment within Metro Waste. Your investments in robotics at the MRF, the fact that you have robotic firefighting equipment in place now that actually helped lower our insurance rates because of the fires that are there are very impressive. And that investment just continues and continues. And I'm in awe of it. Michael didn't make mention of the fact that at the Perry location, they're actually capturing the methane that's released and have microturbines and are producing electricity up there to be able to resell to the grid and utilize in other places. So quite frankly, you're a full circle shop of trying to make sure, though, that we're doing the right things for our environment, and I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate you being here tonight, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Cope, it appears that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to pass along, thank you, Mayor, a couple of appreciations for Mike and the work that the Metro Waste does. One, we had an event recently for our family and needed some recycling containers, and Mike was very helpful in securing that. So he's always very responsive on that way. And also, Mike and Metro Waste does an outstanding job of being an advocate at the state capitol for the industry, and which also then obviously as a member of Metro Waste is very beneficial to the community. So I wanted to share my appreciation for both of those as well. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments for Mike?
I don't have a question, but thank you for everything that you do and make sure our city are clean. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor.
Appreciate it. You bet. We are still under public communications. Is there anyone in the audience that is here for an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is to conduct a public hearing on proposed acquisition of property by eminent domain and consider resolution number 26-100, authorizing acquisition of property by eminent domain. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:33.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight's public hearing is the next step in the process for the acquisition of right-of-way for the portion of the property located at 5125 Northwest 62nd Avenue. You can see in the top image, the property is colored in cyan there, which is at the corner of 62nd. On the east side of the property is 51st Street. Then we can look at the property specific map here. It's turned a little funny. North is actually to the right of the screen with 62nd, or I'm sorry, with 51st being here at the bottom of your image and Merle Hay on the left side of the screen. 62nd. I said Merle Hay, didn't I? Yep, sorry. Merle Hay is on the left side of the screen. The city will be constructing public improvements, which include roadway, water main, storm sewer, trail and sidewalk improvements along 62nd Avenue and a portion of 51st Street. The city does require fee title ownership of the right-of-way to meet city standards for right-of-way widths, as well as for construction, ongoing operation and maintenance of the public roadway and the infrastructure. During early negotiations with the property owner, we presented a compensation package. The property owner at that time had agreed that the land was at fair value. However, the value that was placed on the trees were low. Staff did have a third-party appraiser review the property and assign a before and after value of that land, which has been presented to the property owner. Upon receiving the last offer from that appraisal, the property owner did leave the country for approximately a little over a month, and has recently returned, has only been back for a short period of time. Nathan Whipple with Foth did reach out to the property owner today to follow up on that offer. However, he may not have time to have fully worked through that, but we were working with some time constraints. We'll continue to negotiate with the property owner and try and avoid condemnation, the condemnation process, but with the project slated to start later this month, we feel that we need to run a parallel path to acquire rights to the property in case an agreement cannot be reached, to help avoid delay in the project construction timeline. Tonight's public hearing is to receive public comments for moving forward with the eminent domain process. Nathan or I would be happy to answer any questions at this time. The property owner is in attendance tonight, may have some questions.
Council have any questions for Matt?
I guess I have a question, Matt. The X's that are shown on the trees, is that for sure that tree needs to be removed for our project, or what does an X on a tree mean in this
Yes,
plan?
those would be, so there is, great question. The purple area along 62nd is the additional fee title right-of-way needed to construct the improvements. The green area is temporary easement needed during construction to be able to grade and tie back into. There's actually 5 X's. 2 of the existing trees are in the right-of-way here along 51st at the north edge of the property. There's a red X here and a red X here that are inside the existing right-of-way. The next of the 5 trees, this one here along 51st, sits outside or on private property within that temporary easement. The other 2 red X's sit here with the pine trees that are along 62nd. We did look at this, tried to look at multiple different ways to try and save at least the tree along 51st. However, we're lowering that road, which will then get into that root system, which will likely impact the health and life of that tree. We've adjusted water main and looked at other ways that we can do that. We even shifted the sidewalk to the other side of the street, but we've looked at many different ways to try and save that tree. And just with lowering that road, it just doesn't seem like it would be possible.
Have our civil engineers consulted an arborist about the amount of soil that's being removed and the proximity to that tree? And made the same assessment, there's no way that the project can proceed and that tree has a reasonable chance of surviving and
Yeah,
in a good.
we don't believe, it's not just the lowering of the road. I don't remember if you remember when we brought this before, we looked at relocating the storm sewer, relocating the water main, and then completely removing the sidewalk from this side of the road. The size of the trench from the depth of the storm sewer and then the size of the trench from the water main, all that tied with, having to lower the road there means we're going to impact those roots quite a bit. Our arborist told us, that the tree roots could be up to, twice the size of that drip line. So we went out and surveyed that drip line. And using that metric, we've got tree roots on what would be the east side of 51st now. So we'll be about 16 feet down with our storm sewer. And then we'll have a trench open, almost the entire width of the roadway, and then plus some for the water main on the west side of the road. So we don't believe there's any way to not impact the tree, the long-term health of it, no.
I understand totally about the impacts on that tree, but the long-term survivability that's going to be a tree and continue to grow in the opinion of our arborist, is no. Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions for Matt?
Mayor, I do, and Matt, please tell me if this isn't germane, but there are a couple of, what appears at least on this aerial view, there are a couple of other trees or vegetation. Are they going to be, even though they're not specifically in that right of way, will lowering that elevation impact their root structure at all?
Those aren't nearly as big, and we feel a lot more confident that those will be, that we'll be able to save those.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Matt or for Nate? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? And if you want to state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Joel Souders. I'm the residential property owner at 5125 Northwest 62nd Avenue in Johnston, Iowa. As they stated before, I've been out of the country for about 4 weeks on my honeymoon with my wife. We were backpacking through New Zealand. So this process here today was initiated while I was away. So my apologies, I haven't had much time to prepare formal communication on the matter. Normally, I would like to have some visuals to assist to help my own cause. So here, maybe a better photo is this time of year where you can actually see the foliage of these trees. And I would say, yeah, I haven't really had a chance to review or discuss the new offer from them. They sent it over a few days before I left, and here we are a few days after I got back. So we haven't negotiated about that new proposal at this time. I would say that my pushback to this point has been about one tree in particular. There are 6 mature trees on the property, and our parcel is uniquely impacted by 2 simultaneous projects, the 51st Street and the 62nd Street project. 5 of the 6 mature trees on the property are being taken down by this project. And one in particular is the kind of like the tree that I object to the most, which is this one here on the south side of the driveway, which is a shingle oak tree, which is well over 100 years old. The circumference of the tree is about 12 feet, and it's really a hallmark of our property that makes it kind of an established and alluring landscape. And removing 4 other of the trees, yes, that is an impact, but especially removing this one is quite severe, especially considering that it's well over 30 or 35 feet back from the roadway. And I think that to this point, I'm really not satisfied that enough alternative options have been explored to reroute a water main to the other side of the road where there has been no water main or trench dug on this side of the road before. So that's kind of where I stand today. And I don't really have some more formal commentary at this time, just for lack of preparation.
You've done a fine job.
We have, talking through some of those points, there is an existing water main on the east side of 51st. That's why we're constructing the water main on the west side so that we can leave that in service to be able to keep folks in service while we build the new one, and then we'll swap services over. But with that, I mean, we'll continue negotiations with the property owner through the process. It's just if communication breaks down or if we need to move forward on a parallel track. Well, like I said, we're going to continue those negotiations in good faith. So, and try and work through this.
I would just make a comment that I have looked at the tree and I really like the shingle oak. Shingle oak's one of my favorite trees, and I appreciate, Matt, if you could continue to be looking at ways, if possible, that this tree could be preserved.
Matt, do you want to talk about the time frame and what we're up against?
The time frame of our project?
Yeah, and why this is on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, time frame. We let this project earlier this year. Contractor is just getting ready to get started here late June, and we've got a little bit of time to continue negotiations. We're going to have the water main that's going to go on the south side of 62nd first, the length of the project. Then we'll move into the first phase of our project, which is essentially 54th next to Lawson, down to just short of 51st. But if we do not acquire the property prior to that, or actually during that phase, then it begins to hold up and delay construction and completion of that project moving forward. And we've got another project next year, 63rd Street, which is north of here. So we need to be able to continue to make progress on this project so that we can have it open in time in order to construct the next one.
Thank you.
But you did reach out to the property owner today and you're trying to set up a meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Nathan sent out an email and asked to set up a meeting so that we can kind of work through some of those and understand some of those questions and be able to answer some of those questions on what's changed from our original offer to the appraisal.
Okay. Keep us posted on how those go.
Cool.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing on this. We do have a resolution number 26-100. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-100? Oopsie. I need to close the public hearing first. We'll close the public hearing at 7:47. And now I will ask if we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-100.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Ready? Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
And Matt, just to make sure that the property owners know what we've just done, can you explain that for them?
Yeah, this is really just the first step in that process. The next step would be to file file for acquisition or for a hearing. And then at that point, well, I'll look to legal counsel. Is that about a 60-day process prior to getting an actual meeting?
I believe so. I believe it's 60 days.
Roughly 60 days prior to a meeting with a condemnation board. And then we would present our side. The property owner would be able to present their side. The condemnation board would schedule that hearing, have that hearing, and then make a determination, do a site visit, make a determination, assign the value, and move forward at that point. Hopefully we can avoid all that and come to a peaceful resolution.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready,
Here.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. And I would again just point out for the council's information that there were a number of reports that were included in the consent agenda. If you have an interest in any of those, please review those. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider resolution number 26-103, authorizing funding for the expenditure of funds for employee appreciation onboarding and retention. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This resolution is an annual resolution that we do each year. And for FY27, the upcoming fiscal year proposes to spend up to $5,500 towards defined employee appreciation, onboarding, and retention activities. And part of this resolution sets explicit public purpose statements and a per line item spending cap for these activities. We believe these are pretty modest expenditures and does reinforce the high service levels that our employees provide, and which was shown in the 2026 community survey, where 92% of our residents were satisfied with the overall quality of our public services, which then I think also lends to the fact that our employees play a vital role in delivering those outstanding quality public services. So consistent with Article 3 of the Iowa Constitution and Attorney General guidance, all purchases will be limited to non-cash, city-branded, and low-cost items that directly support team building, orientation, and milestone recognition. And the reason this is on the regular non-consent is really the state auditor, advises that council should debate and approve such expenditures in an open session rather than just any consent agenda item to make sure that they're fully vetted. With that, staff is recommending that council consider approval of Resolution 26103, the resolution approving funding for expenditures for the employee appreciation, there I go, onboarding and retention. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions of Mike? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-103?
Move approval, Cope. Second.
You have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7B, first consideration of ordinance number 1159, amending the Johnston revised ordinances of 2007 by repealing and replacing Chapter 55 pertaining to animal protection and control. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you give me just 1 second here. So what we have this evening is a repeal and replace of Chapter 55, our animal control ordinances. The animal control provisions within our code are tackled primarily by the police department. It's something that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see a lot of, but there's actually quite a bit of administrative work that comes with this program. And so what we're really doing here is there's been a tremendous amount of work put in between our city attorney, Maria Brownell, and some of her team at Allers, and myself and some of my staff that manages this. The last time we touched the animal control provisions was the spring of 2019. What you see is that over the course of time, new challenges arise. So we're addressing things like feral cats and the TNR program and urban coyotes. 10 years ago, we didn't talk at all about urban coyotes. This is something new for us. So the bulk of what we're doing with this code is really, it's trying to give us opportunity to administer properly and continue to keep much of the animal control things happening behind the scenes. Just to give you some kind of perspective, the police department answers roughly about 400 calls for service related to animals throughout the course of a calendar year. That ebbs and flows a little bit, and that's anything from wildlife and deer to dogs and cats and everything in between. We do the bulk of that work with one full-time person that's assigned as a community service officer, Abby Lazella. If you've met her, she does an amazing job, gets rave reviews from our public and our citizens for the compassion she shows with that. We also partner with Public Works for a local kennel to be able to house animals temporarily, and then eventually, if they can't be identified as far as ownership goes, the animal, then it goes to the Animal Rescue League. We're also now working with the Parks Department as we bring a dog park on board. There's new layers to that. Last fall, we worked hard with Parks and the DNR to develop the urban coyote program and those sorts of things. So things just continue to multiply, and we have to account for that in our code to be able to handle some of this stuff administratively. I do publicly want to say thank you to Maria Brownell. Dustin, I'm not sure if you got in on part of this fun here as well. It's been a very heavy lift. So what I'm going to do is just kind of glaze over some of the pieces of this and try to give you some sort of context to it as far as some of the changes that are being made. And really, again, the bulk of these changes aren't new programs. It's defining administrative rules or definitions or things for us to be able to regulate animal control according to decisions that have come, whether it be through an appeal process, a legal judgment that's happened in our municipal ordinance when it's been challenged, when we've charged someone for having a dog at large, and all those little lessons that we've learned throughout the way. So I'm just going to walk through some of this pretty quickly. If you have a question, please feel free to stop me. But again, we're just going to work quickly. So just getting into the first section of our code, it's all definition related things. So again, this is really the important piece of when we go into a courtroom and we talk about whatever that investigation resulted in, do we have the legal standing to enforce the code? And then from that, what do we need to clarify because of what's going on through that investigative process, the appeal process, or things of that nature. So what we're seeing is we just scroll through here. We've had to develop a definition for what at heel means. That's been one thing that we had to give further definition to. Looking at I mentioned earlier, the dog park. There's a layer of when an animal would be at large by default in our code if we didn't account for the dog park as an exemption to that. Just one note as far as between first and second reading, I would anticipate one additional amendment probably coming forward to this at-large section. We had a resident reach out to us at the end of last week talking about his service animal and that there's special exemptions through the ADA related to that. By default, the ADA rules would preempt any of our city ordinances. However, given that he had a question about it, it's probably good use to us to be able to put another listed exemption in there related to that. So I've reached out to Maria on that, and we're going to work this week that will probably bring in some sort of clarification just related to service animals. And service animals are different than emotional support animals. Just for clarity, we're talking about the service animals. Again, working through behavior consultation, this is part of our process when we're looking at potentially dangerous dogs and some of the restrictions we put in place where if we have an incident with a pet, it's usually a dog, having a professional consultation come in to try to diagnose how do we help this owner be more responsible or this pet to be assessed in a way that we can allow them to keep their pet rather than forcing them to remove it. So more clarifications there. Cats are a much bigger thing for us, so making sure that we've worked through our definition sections, having proper definition, and it seems very simple, but just defining what a cat is something that we have to be focused on now in our code. There's a couple pieces that are highlighted in here that I'm going to skip this one for now and talk about it in a greater context down below. And again, with the dangerous animals, we're always trying to refer back to either administrative code or criminal code in the state of Iowa. There's differentiation in here between what is considered a municipal infraction. We have certain tools that we can use as a city with municipal infractions versus a criminal charge in municipal court. So again, more of those clarifications that you'll see as we work through this. Some of you may recall, we've had appeals in the past. We're going to talk about appeal rights here a little bit, where we've actually gotten into discussions with pet owners on what is the intent of the animal and just the difficulties. We have very passionate conversations with people as we work through our process in the appeal. So we've had to go to define what provocation is, but in the arguments that we've had, it's been, okay, who provoked? Well, the person who's injured, that's where the provocation needs to be. So we have to tie that specifically to code. So again, it's more clarifying measures such as that. If we're defining cats, we got to define dogs, right? Impoundment, at one time our code just talked about impounding dogs. Now we're looking in a world of cats as well. This is one section that we're going to talk a little bit about in a few different areas of the code between this and the next ordinance, but the idea of nuisance wildlife. We've worked hard through the Urban Coyote Program to establish parameters to be able to use nuisance wildlife control officers, which is a DNR program where you have trappers essentially that are credentialed by the DNR to be able to come in and properly remove nuisance wildlife from private property. They would also partner with us as a city in certain instances under public property if we have an issue in one of our public parks as an example. So again, this is just providing definition for what is nuisance wildlife, what are these nuisance wildlife control officers, and we'll talk more about that down the road. These are, again, more areas in which we're more closely defining language and verbiage as far as what kind of confrontation there is between, in most cases, a dog and a human, and different measures of interpretation that we then have to go and explain in court. Proper leashing, again, more clarity and definition based upon that. Just to be clear, and I had this email conversation with the resident who reached out on the service animal piece. Our goal is not to be going out and dealing with citizens where we're trying to write them tickets because they don't have their dog on a leash. That's not proper, or their cat for that matter. The goal of the leashing is oftentimes when we have an animal bite or an attack that happens, usually there's another underlying element to the code that comes with that. And many times it's that the animal wasn't properly leashed. So that becomes the foundational level of a legal argument for us. So we've had to work to make sure that we're defining more closely what that means as far as leashing. And then the next section of quarantine, and you're going to see quarantine listed throughout several areas of the code as well. That's another big area for us when it comes to dealing with what has happened after a dog has bitten someone. With that, there's certain state code requirements, but there also has to have the enforceability for us to be able to ensure the public safety and that the animal can be quarantined properly in the right manner to ensure the safety of the neighborhood, the family, whatever it may be. We have frequent instances where we've got a family member or a friend that's come over and visited and has been bitten. We do on average roughly about 20 animal bite investigations every year. So again, this is something that gets exercised pretty regularly within our code. Another layer of the code that we're going to see in a little bit that I'll just touch on now related to quarantine is a lot of times these investigations take a long time to work through. It seems like it would be very simple, but it's not. And you have this waiting period to make sure that the animal, if it's not properly vaccinated, that you have to wait through that period. If they exercise appeal process, within that, now we have to stretch this quarantine further because we have to ensure the safety of and the well-being of the community at large. So again, there's just lots of layers to all these regulations. Trap, neuter, return. This is a program that we first talked about, I think maybe 3 or 4 years with the council. I want to give Councilwoman Martin credit on her skepticism in a constructive way that she offered as to have we really thought this through. We were on the front end of trying to deal with the problem with feral cats in our community, and with that, we've watched other communities struggle with this and put money into these programs, and it's kind of a catch-22. You can make an impact with it, but it becomes a burden for the community to then manage that program and the costs associated with it. So what we've developed with the help of legal counsel is we're providing within our code an opportunity for a TNR program within the city of Johnston. However, we're not going to fund it. If an outside group or entity, nonprofit, passion project, whatever it is, volunteer corps, if they want to come in and because we have very passionate owners of animals all throughout our community that create some of these cat colonies that can be a hindrance to us. So what we're doing is we're saying, if you want to, we've provided a framework within our code for a TNR program, but you need to fund it, you need to volunteer it, and we're going to manage it, we're going to oversee it in the sense of making sure that it abides by the rules and regulations set forth within our code. So I thought that was a very creative way for us to provide opportunity for those that are passionate about these situations to really invest in their own community and help with that, and not burden our police department staff or the city budget with extra fees and things that can be cumbersome. And then if we're getting into TNR programs, now we have to talk about different definitions of cat. It's not just the cat anymore. Now it's the unreleased cat, and you're going to see other definitions of cats. So we didn't want to go to the community cat standard. We're trying to deal with ownership and all those things, because ownership goes to appeal rights when it comes to some of the decisions that we make as a police department. And that's what you're going to see again in a few different sections of the code is what is an owner? How do we define an owner? If you own a piece of property, then you have an appeal right. So Cats, dogs, they're property that you own. So we have to be very careful in how we construct our code to be able to not unintentionally give someone ownership right to an animal that isn't truly claimed as their own. So that's what you're seeing in some of these other definitions. Same goes with abandonment. And this is more about third parties related to the release of cats. We get into our investment of time and energy, which is our animal bites and those kinds of things. We have to, every time we have an animal bite investigation, in addition to the basic vaccination records and things, we have to figure out, is this a potentially dangerous animal that's now residing within our community? So we've gone in and strengthened the code based upon some of our other lessons learned through some of these appeal hearings and some of the court rulings that we've had. So this is, again, giving us more process, giving us more accountability in the quarantine sections, and then that ownership piece and component. Also giving us wiggle room where before it was always the city administrator and the police chief. As we have more of these issues, sometimes we're going to need a designee where it can't always be either the city administrator or the police chief. In most cases, our patrol commander is the one that's handling a lot of these decisions at the first administrative level in the police department. This next section that's highlighted in yellow. So this is, if you rewind back to the first work session in December of 2025, we talked about the appeal process, and that was a big piece of trying to figure out what is the role of the council in all of this. The way our code existed and will continue to exist, so the stuff that's highlighted in yellow, that's how it's existed, that's going to remain. But the discussion point that we had at that meeting that ultimately we couldn't land a decision was, what should the role of the council be? So when there's an investigation that's done and there's a declaration of dangerous or potentially dangerous, after the police department, myself, makes that declaration, the first round of appeal goes to the city administrator. There's an appeal hearing. And then in our code right now, if they wish to appeal the city administrator's decision, assuming that it's supportive of the police chief, then it goes to the city council. Well, the challenge with the city council is the legal process. And as we had that discussion, the recommendation that we brought forward was we should get this into the court a little quicker. And so we offered 3 suggestions as far as the potential of bringing that second layer of appeal either through an administrative law judge, through the magistrate court, or through a writ of certiorari. None of those we agreed on as far as terms. So at this point, the code that exists prior to this is the same code that's going to exist after this is repealed and replaced. So the city council will continue to be that second layer of appeal process unless I receive direction from you all over the course of these next 2 readings after this one to change that. So the language that's included again in yellow, that's the current language in the code. The language that was stricken that's in red, that's what we were amending or suggesting that we amend to back in December. So point of clarification on that. Couple sections we're tying back to licensing requirements as well, just making very certain that also is a component that we're looking at with these declarations. Reference to municipal infractions, as I already mentioned. Again, more as far as quarantine, and that's the same reference to licensing. Insurance requirements. This is another one of those learning lessons. So you think about having a dog in your family. What happens when the kids are going to go on vacation and they bring the dog over to take care, for you to take care? So we've had to clarify keeper versus caretaker as a legal standard. We've had situations where it's not a homeowner, it's a renter. So we have to clarify in code that they have to have an insurance provision with that dog being at their property. And then we also have to clarify, is it canine liability? So does the insurance, does it go with the dog, wherever the dog is? Or is it based to a homeowner property or an umbrella coverage at a specific residence? Things that we don't necessarily think of until we get into these situations and have to start to work through them. 5521, again, that's tying back to our other previous definitions. Um, 5526, so this is a new section that ties back to our definition of a TNR program and trying to put guardrails around how we've constructed that. But again, my earlier conversation about appeal rights. So now when we have a cat that is roaming the community, we have to determine ownership. And if there is an ownership right to that, if you're violating the at-large provision and you have an issue with a cat that we now have to do a further declaration on, you have a right as an owner to appeal that decision. So basically the exercise that some of you went through a handful of times in the past several years for dogs, theoretically the exact same thing could happen for cats. So we've had to mirror the process for cats in the same way if there's that same property ownership right. And the other new section is the urban coyotes and nuisance wildlife control operators. I've already touched on that, but again, this is establishing the framework within our animal control provisions to be able to try to manage the program, give our residents what they've been asking for as far as opportunity to be able to work as a private property owner, to be able to deal with some of those provisions. And we'll touch a little bit more on a couple other things in the next ordinance. So is there any questions or clarifications I can offer to you? I know I went through that quickly. I might have to tag team my legal partner in here if we go too deep into this, but I'm happy to try.
Council, have any questions for the chief?
I have a question. What's the difference between a cat that's owned by a person that has shots, rabies shots, wearing a collar, whatever, not wearing a collar, that is found off the property, their home property, and a trap, neuter, release cat? I mean, legally, they're both wandering at large. Seems to me the one that has an owner is a nuisance cat now, or could be claimed to be a nuisance cat, and the one that doesn't have an owner gets off scot-free.
Well, the one that doesn't have an owner, we can't hold ownership responsibility towards, right? Yeah. The one that has the owner is the one that's supposed to be living according to the rules of the city code. So when we get animals, and there's a whole nother layer to this when we get into the whole feral cat issue, is that what are our shelters willing to take? What are they willing to euthanize, and all those layers?
Right, I understand why we had to do trap, neuter, release was because we didn't have I wasn't willing to say that we should just do nothing with the cats and nobody else on the council, because the ARL or the shelters weren't going to take our cats or our little kittens unless we were part of the program.
Right, and well, the ARL has really even stepped back further on that, just they have such an overpopulation issue. So if we find a young litter of kittens that, there's a possibility to rehome them, in most instances, the ARL, at least last I knew, I think they were still receiving those kinds of animals. There's a judgment call with a wild cat and what needs to be the proper course with that. And it's not a perfect rule as far as that goes, but again, if there's an opportunity for volunteers to come forward and to help manage that program in a way, I think all communities are really facing this overpopulation issue. And to your point, some of these wild cats absolutely become nuisance animals, and that's why we're building in different layers within this to be able to take other means. Euthanasia may be appropriate in some circumstances. So we're trying to create a framework to be able to have all options available based upon using best judgment.
Do we really have to leash a cat? I mean, just hear me out. I understand that we're all about equality, even with the animal species. And if the dogs have to be leashed, therefore the cats have to be leashed. But I question that because there's a potential a cat could run up a person and jump on them, I guess, and bite them. There sure is, but the chances are slim.
Well, you're sitting with,
Are we leashing cats because we're leashing dogs, therefore both of them need to be leashed?
from the police department's perspective, you're leashing because the code says you're going to leash it.
Yeah, I'm wondering
That's
about that.
the policymakers here are the ones that would require that. I mean, that's been the baseline of the code since its existence. You know, there's always multiple layers to discussion. Some people love dogs, some people hate dogs, some people love cats, we take issues from our citizens for all species. So if someone calls and complains about something that's a violation of the code, we investigate it. You know, there's the Songbird argument. I mean, there's a lot of things that go.
There's a lot of
this.
reasons not to have cats running wild. I understand.
Right. So but you're sitting with your policymakers. If you'd like to propose an amendment, we've got 2 more readings to get that qualified.
I do see there's a loophole here in that if I could have the police come to my door once again about my cat, and I could claim that's not my cat, that's a trap, neuter, release, and then that cat is let off scot-free.
Well, and again, part of the definition of the TNR program is they have to be ear notched, and there's other layers to that as well. So, and that's why our job as the police department is to account for what's in the code as we do our investigations. It seems like a lot of energy to investigate animal control, and let's be honest, the priority that we get in investigating crimes against persons versus crimes with animals, that's not the same priority, right?
No, I get it.
So that's part of the reason why it's taken 2 years to get this amended into you as a council. But
will you be showing up at my door and taking away my cat if you have proof that he was off my property?
I will not be. No. If you should talk to your neighbors about whether or not they're going to be. Well, I mean, honestly, the first thing that would happen is.
Yes, I'm trying to deal with the neighbor who turned in my cat.
Yeah, well, if they're willing to
making
sign a
friends.
complaint, provide evidence, you might find yourself with a citation in court for an at-large
I was
cat.
looking for that. How much am I going to have to pay? And is it go up for repeat offenses?
There's a maximum dollar amount within the code. So
And what is it? Do you know?
I think it's $625 for a simple misdemeanor. I don't,
For one time?
up to.
Man, that cat is expensive now.
Maybe you should get rid of it.
There's no way I'm getting rid of my cat.
Buy a leash.
Or we could just keep it inside.
Yeah, thank
All
you. I really appreciate you having a sense of humor about this, and you have to when it comes to these kind of situations.
A disproportionate amount of time and energy that goes into some of these cases, for sure.
Any other questions for the chief? I don't see any, chief. Are we ready for a motion for first consideration of ordinance number 1159?
I move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I will be voting in approval of this because I know the chief and his staff and everybody's worked really hard for it. I do seriously think there might be some other thoughts on it, but we have 3 readings.
We have 3 readings.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, first consideration of ordinance number 1160, amending the Johnston Revised Ordinances of 2007, Chapter 41, Section 41.09 and 41.14 pertaining to authorized use of weapons and trapping for coyote control within the city of Johnston. Chief.
This will be much shorter this time. So in addition to what we just did with Chapter 55 and specific to the nuisance wildlife and the nuisance wildlife control officers, there's 2 amendments that need to be made to be able to provide opportunity for the DNR certified nuisance wildlife control operators to be able to do the work of a trapper on private property in the city. So one is an amendment to discharging weapons, the other one is allowing for the trapping. Just to give you context, the nuisance wildlife control officer is not just about coyotes, it's about all kinds of critters on private property. But what we're really targeting in here on is the coyote issue that we're challenged with. And if you spend any time speaking with the DNR, we know that the problem's just going to get worse in our area, that the population continues to grow. So with this, we have to provide opportunity to be able to allow the nuisance wildlife control operators to trap within the city. And then typically, if you think about the logic behind it, it's really pretty simple. If you catch a coyote, you're not going to be able to rehome it and shoot the animal. So it's just providing for the humane euthanasia of a wild animal according to state regulation through a state certified NWCO. So this is just, again, broad framework within our code that provides for that opportunity based upon what's in the code.
Any questions for the chief? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution, the first consideration of ordinance number 1160?
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yep.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to, thank you, chief. Moving on to item 7D, consider approval of claims in the amount of $1,495,272.71.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to city administrator staff comments. We have 3 scheduled comments this evening. The first one being Highway 141 Northwest Towner Drive interchange update.
Good evening. Last Tuesday, Mayor Derenfeld and I were in Perry and made a presentation to the Iowa Transportation Commission. Annually, they come to Central Iowa and allow the opportunity for public input. So this is the second year in a row we went and just kind of given them an update on where we're at with the 141 Northwest Towner Drive interchange project. And I thought since we just did that, it'd be timely to just have a touch point with the council, just to give you a high level overview of where we're at with the project. So I'm going to go through this real quickly, and then I've asked Jordan Stormer with Snyder to talk about a little bit of the scheduled side of the project. I'm not going to go into detail. We've obviously done a lot of studying in this area. What we're really building off of is the 2020 plan that we did in combination with Polk County, Iowa DOT, and the city of Grimes, where we really identified Towner Drive and the need for an interchange as the best improvement to open this area up for development. Looking at substantial traffic growth, which kind of leads to why we're talking about a interchange versus an intersection. And unfortunately, we have had a history in this overall corridor of crashes. So that really led us through an alternatives analysis where we looked at what was the right design, what was the right fit for the corridor. That was a pretty extensive process that we went through, and where we ended up is what we're calling the skewed roundabout design. So this is the design we're moving forward. So it is a barbell roundabout. It's at a slight skew that really improves the accessibility to both property owners on the east and the west side, limits impacts on their property, sets up for what they want to do for future development, et cetera. And it's incredibly safe and it fits in a pretty small footprint. So if you look back at some of those alternatives really had an impact on the adjacent property owners that we were trying to avoid. We're trying to maximize their development potential. So that really leads us to project schedule. And this is where I'm going to ask Jordan to just give you an update. We went through about an 18-month Pell process, and we're about to start about a 12-month environmental and preliminary design process. And I just wanted him to give you a little bit of an overview of sort of what that means or what that's looked like and what it means going forward. So.
The PEL process, PEL is an acronym for Planning and Environmental Linkages. It's, so whenever you have a project of this size, you know, all cities are going to go after federal funds. So when you go after federal funds, there's always the strings attached to come to federal funds. One of the first things that you do with a project that's got federal dollars is you go to the Iowa DOT and talk with them and prepare a concept statement.
You cut out that noise.
They'll send that up to FHWA, Federal Highway, and they'll take a look at the project. And a project of this size, you know, they typically will make an environmental determination on the project. And what they're doing in conjunction with Location and Environment Bureau with the Iowa DOT, when on projects of this size with kind of new roadway systems, they've been recommending a new environmental process called PEL NEPA. So working on, and that kind of lays out a lot of the groundwork and early research so we can come to the right choice for a project. So that the right choice meaning we've looked at all the environmental things like wetlands and threatened endangered species, and you know, we look at structures that are out there that are large or old structures. You know, there's about 15 different things that we look at when it comes to that stuff. And so we delineate all those so we make sure we put a new road in the right spot. And then what Dave mentioned is we look at a whole bunch of different alternatives. And we had a public meeting about a year and a half ago on that, got some good feedback. And we've also been meeting with, you know, this project in particular, there's a very large property owner on the east side and a very large property owner on the west side. So we've been keeping them appraised in the project as well, pretty much on a monthly basis. And to the point where we sat down with them again last week. So, and that was a really, really good meeting with both of those two property owners. And that's kind of where the different interchanges came into play, but the SKU came into play. What the end product would be with what they want to do for maybe a development or specifically on the east side with the golf course there as well. So, so that's kind of what looking back. Now looking forward, once we finish that and FHWA has now approved that, the approval of that is them saying yes, this preferred alternative is acceptable, and so now we kind of finally have the go ahead to push forward with that specific design. So now we're kind of more in the realm of what you guys would normally see on a road design project where we start the road design. We're doing the roadway design in conjunction with what FHWA moved on to is an EA, an environmental assessment. So on a project that has federal funds, they can come down, they can ask for 3 different options. One would be a CE, a categorical exclusion. That's the simplest form of an environmental document. And then an EA is kind of the middle ground. And then an EIS is for like a bypass around, you know, Des Moines. Those are like the biggest things that they get. So we're doing an EA right now. And that can be done in conjunction with the preliminary design of the project. So that's an EA lasts 1 year, and that started about a month or 2 ago. So the next summer from now, we'll have a preliminary plan set done, and then we can go into right-of-way negotiations and final design for that. The big ticket item, or elephant in the room probably, is the funding for the project. We do have we're on our 3rd application for a build grant, which is another federal grant that is a big ticket item for and we've asked for 15 million for that. Yeah, there we go. So that we'll hear back supposedly at the end of this month. That's the return date for that. That'll solve a lot of problems if we receive that. But otherwise, if that is not received, then that's something where you know, you two went and spoke with the Iowa DOT Commission meeting, and we'll probably have a sit-down meeting with them to talk about funding it. Funding is going to be priority number one here in a couple weeks. Yeah, and then moving on after right-of-way negotiations, the DOT and the city have a pre-design agreement that has the DOT performing the right-of-way for the project. And that's usually and these projects last a long time, so it's always just good to be able to give you guys an update. So
Big project. So, David, I should probably know this, but when the application for the build grant has been submitted, when do we expect to hear?
Hopefully the end of the month. That's our normal
The
process.
end of this month?
Yep. If that comes through, that really closes the financial gap. Now, there's some lines in here. What we're showing, particularly on the west side with the roundabouts and the connection out to 121st, are not necessarily needed for our needs to put the interchange in. They're really to improve development. So we've had this conversation with the owner of, there's going to need to be some participation in this project because we're doing things to improve, or you're asking us to do things to improve your developability of it. So I say that the grant would close the financial gap. It would get us 95% of the way there. We still have to work out some negotiating with the property owners, but it would really close the massive hole that we have at the moment. So, and we've secured federal funding through the MPO SDBG program, through the carbon reduction program. The DOT has committed some. We've secured some funding from the congressional appropriation through Congressman Nunn's office. So we've been out asking for a lot of money, and so the build is kind of the last piece of that.
With respect to the build grant, have we requested congressional support there as well?
Yes, and we've heard from both senators and congressmen's office that they've put in their support for us.
Good. Is it possible that we could get a portion of that instead of all of it? Do they make those kinds of decisions?
I don't believe so. I think there's about
Sure. Sure.
Very competitive. This pool is roughly double what it was last year, or maybe even more than that.
Yeah, so that sometimes it breaks down into two. They have two different funds over last year's one, and I think it has Biden's term ended and Trump's started at that time, and I think there was only the Biden term had used up.
So the pool is bigger this time.
Yep.
And we also did a debrief with Federal Highway after the last application and found out we scored very highly in like all but one area of their scoring. And so obviously when we resubmitted this year, we focused heavily on that area. We got really good feedback and are hopeful that we're able to make changes that'll be positive.
We received support from our congressional delegation. Did they also give it to every other 950 communities in Iowa?
Yeah. I don't know. There's only a handful of requests that come from the state.
Okay, good.
I'm sure they did, yes. But
Yeah.
But you're not aware of just a huge amount of Iowa requests.
It's a pretty involved application. I would guess somewhere in the.
Okay. Well, makes
There's probably like 4 or 5 in the metro.
Okay. Other questions from council?
Mayor, just two very quickly. The first of which is, I just want to make sure I understand. This is going over the top of 141. Is that skewed? So it'll kind of be an angle heading back southwest, right? And then the second question is it planned to be wide enough for more than 2 lanes in each direction in 141? Has that been discussed?
I just asked that question.
Yeah,
last
Dave
week.
just asked that.
Well, great.
question. Very good question.
I'm sorry your mind thinks like mine, but thank you for asking that.
Yeah, so I mean, the bridge itself will span much farther than an extra lane. It's a balancing act. Bridges are more expensive than roads, so if there would be a bridge, it normally comes down with but another thing to note is as this corridor gets more grade separated accesses, it functions more as an interstate, and therefore you can actually get more traffic on the through lanes of 141 than you can today because there's no intersection.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing is you got a bridge to the north and a bridge to the south over a couple creeks and rivers there that make that even more difficult.
Sure.
I think I know the answer to this, and I just want to hear you confirm it. There will be an opportunity for pedestrian traffic to get across.
Shown in kind of the pink color on the north side.
Yeah.
Zoom in.
Yep, we do
to
show
see
it from 121st on the north side all the way across on the north side of the bridge and then back up to the existing towner there. So, yeah, that 10-foot trail is what we've got. Not many places you can cross 141, so.
No. I saw somebody walking across the 86th Street Bridge again over the weekend, and it's just, shouldn't have been built that way.
I know a lot of people ask the question. It's a very popular golf place. So the other reason why the skew and the quick turn into Towner is we can the whole 9 is this is the tee box about here, a whole 9, and it comes up, and here's the tee, and here's the green, and then this is the current driving range. So with this current configuration, the plan would be to turn the par 4 into a par 3. Which isn't ideal, but at least we don't lose a hole, and the driving range in itself would have to go away. So it's a 27-hole course now. It'll be a 27-hole course when it's done. So it was talked about with the property owner, and he's very happy that that's how it laid out.
Any other questions, council? Well, I want to thank you both for a job well done. It's not done yet, but we're moving in the right direction.
Definitely a process.
Yeah.
That's right. And thank you, Dave, for your presentation to the DOT Commission last week. I thought that went very well.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the water usage update.
Good evening. Last month, CIWW implemented stage 2 of the water use plan, which was a call for Metro residents to reduce water irrigation by 50%. So I just wanted to give a quick update on where our usage has been since we've been in stage 2, and then CIWW entered into stage 3 of the water use plan, which is shown here on the screen. Which has a ban on lawn irrigation for established lawns. There are some ability to water sod that has been put down, or there is for permitted uses for irrigation guidelines on CIWW's website. But a little bit about Johnston. Our residents are complying with the turf grass irrigation ban. We are currently just monitoring 3 properties. 2 residential and 1 commercial to verify compliance as of today. And we have granted 3 exemptions to the turf grass irrigation for newly seeded or sodded homes. Properties have also been granted the exemption are only to irrigate those areas, not any other areas as well. Just what they've got laid down so far. Staff, like I said, is currently also monitoring the town center splash pad usage. We did discover, as we were monitoring that usage, we did discover a small leak of about 5 to 10 gallons per hour in the system. That has since been located and started repair today. And I don't know if they fully got that repaired today or if it's going to continue tomorrow as well. So, but it should be back up and running by Wednesday, if not tomorrow after the repair. One thing that the Parks Department has done from last year is they have adjusted nozzles, shortened runtime when those nozzles are activated to help cut down on that water usage to be more efficient in this year's operations. And we've seen that in those usage numbers so far this year. Another question that we've received since the irrigation ban is we have backflow prevention devices for irrigation systems. Those have to be tested annually. Currently, with the ban in place, if it hasn't been started yet, we are offering extensions for those systems that haven't got started up just yet. And we're kind of monitoring that on a 30-day period, so we may need to grant a few more extensions just depending
How are
on.
we communicating that, Matt?
So BSI is our company that sends those out. They provide letters to the folks on when that is due. And then generally they're calling into us, but I think we probably could communicate that a little bit better on either our social media or.
I want to do something just so that people are aware.
Currently, our max day demand has been on May 28th of about 3.5 million gallons. Since stage 2, we were averaging anywhere from 3.1 to 3.4 million gallons a day. With stage 3, we've seen a drop to about 2.2. Average is about 2.2. Our high was 2.6 last week on the 9th. So as I continue to get updates from CIWW, I will pass those along, but be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
We went through this process last year as well, correct? And the nitrates thing.
Correct. We had a stage 3 ban in effect last year.
Yes. And I think we had the same discussion about I can't recollect this properly. They had about 7 nitrates recycling, 7 nitrate cleaning center or something like that.
They've got 8 vessels for their nitrate removal facility. They can only run 7 of those at one time because one is currently in regeneration mode, so that they have to clean that out, put new ion exchange material in there, and then run that. And they basically, I think they can get through approximately all 8 vessels in a day, but that's constantly regenerating one of those vessels with a max of 7 running out of the 8 at one time.
Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about the same thing last year as well. So nothing changed from then to now.
No, but CIWW is looking into expansion of that nitrate facility, or they did receive funding from the state earlier this year of about $25 million. So they are looking, and they are in the process of not only just maybe expanding that, but looking at other treatments that may handle nitrates and other contaminants that'll be coming in the future years, or could be coming in the future years.
Okay, all right. The other question I had about the splash pad, do you recycle that water?
The water for the splash pad is not recycled.
Okay, I was always under the impression it was recycled. So no, so what would it take to make it happen that way?
Very good question, but I think that decision was made when the splash pad originally went in, that it wasn't going to use recycled water. There are some different licenses and things that you need to have for recycled water to do that, then you're going to have a holding tank somewhere while that's recycling and cleaning to be used. So I think it's probably not cost effective to do that. I mean, we can take a look at that, but
I can just jump in. At this point, it would have to be replaced.
Yeah.
We'd have to replace the entire system. It wasn't designed that way.
Okay. Well,
Because of the operating cost, you have to have a pool operator. It has to be tested several times a day. There's all kinds of regulatory nature that goes along with that. So that was reviewed when it was designed, and the decision was made to go with the system we have.
okay.
I don't believe there's only a couple in the metro that are actually, like 2 in the entire metro that are recycled water.
Well, I mean, when I recycle water, I mean to say use that water for irrigation, like, grass in front. We can reuse those things. So what you're saying right now, it's not possible to do it. It's not cost effective.
No, it's not. And Jeff even just mentioned that if you have recirculating water, you have to have showers available as well. So additional cost.
I think what Councilmember Reddy is suggesting, and it would require a major expenditure probably as well, but to capture that water and reuse it in some way.
Yeah.
So it's not just going down into the storm.
That was reviewed as well. I don't remember all the specifics, but we looked at doing some sort of cistern under the yard, and $500,000 comes to mind of what it was going to take to build it, and then there was questions about how we'd filter it to reuse it. That wasn't one of the things we did look at. I'd have to go back to my files and really dig to find it, but we did look at that during design.
Can you give me that data? How will
I'll
it look?
see what I can find. Yep.
Okay.
Matt, if you could get your crystal ball out. And I don't need a long extended answer to this because I know it's not an easy question to answer, but do we have any forecast of what to expect here? I mean, it's been raining, so.
Yeah, with the rain, generally what they see is a reduction in nitrates. I did look today, there was a operational update sent out last Friday with the nitrates in it. Today I saw 13.6 in the Raccoon River and roughly just above 10 in the Des Moines River. With the rain, generally we'll see that diluted and then it kind of rises back. I know that last year when we were having discussions on how we come out of that band, I believe it's 2 of those sources of water have to be underneath 10 for several days before they lift that band, and then it kind of goes back to stage 2 and then to stage 1. So I'll keep you posted with the information that I get.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Matt on this item? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
The last scheduled item is an update on the strategic planning initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Included in the packet tonight was a update on our strategic plan update. And so this is really our first progress report since we implemented the 2025-2026 strategic plan. Just so you recall, this was accepted by the council on January 20th of this year. So the plan included 23 top and high priority goals and strategies across 5 operational areas. A reminder, this includes fiscally sound and responsive city government, the Merle Hay destination, quality of life amenities, and neighborhood preservation, small town appeal, and that Johnston is a great place to do business. Staff has been actively working on this plan. There are 143 individual tasks, and the tracker does reflect strong progress through those. To date, approximately 63% of the items are completed, 13% show some progress, 32% are still for future work according to the work plan, 1% have ongoing and occurring work, and then 16% have no progress or experiencing some type of disruption. And those vary. I mean, some of the disruptions, for example, in community development, the community development director left, and so we have not proceeded with the work around the housing plan, for example. So the disruptions can be for various reasons. Additionally, I would point out there were 19 unprioritized items that the council had in the strategic plan that were really labeled as for future evaluation, ongoing consideration. Staff has completed out of those on-priority items, 3 of them, and has done some level of work on 7 of them. Overall, staff makes excellent progress on the strategic plan, and really, I think the overall scope of it does show an honest reflection of where we stand today. And certainly I'm happy to answer any questions and review it in detail with the council tonight if you wish. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Also have any questions for Mike? Comments? Doesn't appear to be any, Mike.
And I should have noted, I mean, this is good work by the staff. I mean, they have been very diligent over the past 6 months to work through this, and actually, even while the strategic plan was still coming together. So without their hard work, we wouldn't be where we're at on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have anything further?
I don't have anything further.
Staff, anything else?
Want to let everybody know that we have our last trail open house, trail master plan open house tomorrow at Crown Point from 4 to 7. So your last chance for the community to give input on that. And then it will go to our park board and then to you guys again one more time.
What time is that? I don't have that on my calendar.
4 to 7.
4 to 7 at Crown Point?
Mm-hmm.
Staff, anything else? If not, Councilman Evans?
I was hoping to talk about Green Days, but it really didn't pan out that much. But
Well, we had everything except for the grand finale.
yes. Did they do the fireworks?
No, I don't think
They have not done the fireworks. I did have a discussion with JP. They have a trailer full of fireworks that they're trying to figure out what to do. So if we want to reschedule that, those are in discussions right now.
As long as you mention that, Mike. They also had scheduled the band that evening, and I'm assuming that they got a rain date from them.
That I'm not certain. I have to check.
I mean,
with
it seems to
I
me
was-
that if
yeah.
we could do work with them to come up with a night where the band can play and we can put off the fireworks, that would be amazing, particularly if it's around 4th of July.
Yeah, July 4th could be.
Yeah. Anyway, just,
Thing might be scheduled.
I do know that Camp Dodge has a concert on Thursday night of that week, July 2nd. So we should try and avoid that. But anyway, it'd be it'd be wonderful if we could work something out.
That's all I had.
I'll pass, thank you.
I yield.
I'm gonna be out of town or out of state. I'll be in Portland, Oregon for the next council meeting, but I will try Zoom, but I won't guarantee that it'll work for me. But otherwise, I was just checking out. I think all my city meetings, I'm still here. So, thank you.
Councilman Cope, are you still online?
Yes, I'm online, but I'll pass on comments. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to comment on Green Days as well. This was the first year where the chamber did not organize it and execute it. And I am just, I couldn't have been more pleased with, what actually was able to happen. I thought that, the Friday night activities were great. Saturday went well up until the time that the rain washed it out. I did have an opportunity to watch the character actor perform as Henry Wallace on Saturday afternoon, and he did an amazing job. He did explain that he had worked with former Senator John Culver to put together the performance itself and based it on a book that John Culver had written about Henry Wallace. And it was just incredibly well done. And I think that if there are other opportunities to bring him in and have him do that, whether it's at the library or other events, particularly during this year of Pioneers 100th, that would be great, because he really did do a very nice job. But I do want to congratulate the volunteer committee that came together and worked so hard to put on what was, other than the rain, which they couldn't control, a very successful Green Days, and somehow we need to recognize them for that, because I think the community really, they probably didn't notice that it was organized and done by a different group. It was done extremely well, and somehow we need to show our appreciation and give them support next year as we look ahead and try and plan for Green Days next year. So job well done there. Movies in the Yard on Thursday night. I came for the first few minutes of that, because we had a conflicting concert up at Camp Dodge the same evening, and I wanted to get to that as well. I think the screen that they brought in worked well. Jeff, did you get any feedback on that?
That's all Josh is handling all that.
Okay, Josh? Oh. Well, I thought the screen looked like it was going to work very well. We had a number of people out there. The splash pad was running at the same time, and the wind was so strong that we were irrigating the yard that evening. I don't know if there was anybody in the splash pad while the movie was going on, but if there was, they were getting wet. And that couldn't be helped. But anyway, so I look forward to future Movies in the Yard this year, because I think that worked out really well. So anyway, we also had a Liberation Day event at Crown Point on Friday evening, celebrating the Liberation Day of Kosovo. And that was something that was organized by the Kosovo Consulate's office, and that was very well attended, and they very much appreciated the use of our facility. It worked incredibly well for them. So I think that's all I have for this evening. So with that, is there anything else to come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned.